and making the victim believe that their memory is flawed. That's if anyone's dealt with a gaslighter, that's their number one tool. But I think that we really have to look at the terms that women use, the terms that women have made up and use in order to describe men. And I think we really got to start looking at this. And you realize that women are always projecting, women are always telling on themselves. I mean, let's be honest. Pretty much every time a woman has described a man as a narcissist, for example, almost always the woman is actually the narcissist. Now, if I look at the definition of, say, narcissism, it says in a person who has excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Does that sound like most men? Do most men, are they really, looking for a lot of credit? Are they really looking for a lot of, as most of you know, I have been fighting on the front lines of the simp epidemic for years, but I need to tell you about a quiet weapon being ratcheted up against men that is rarely talked about. It's not just the relentless anti-masculinity propaganda and OnlyFans hoes causing the societal issues that we discuss on this show. Did you know that the average city's tap water contains trace pharmaceuticals and endocrine disruptors? This often includes estrogen from birth control. The average adult consumes a credit card worth of plastic every single week. That's 5 grams of plastic a week on average. So it's no wonder that the average male's testosterone is half of what the average was 50 years ago. Testosterone levels decline 1% a year, and without a course correction, we are headed towards extinction. No matter how based you are, you need to be naturally boosting your testosterone. My friends at Chalk, CHOQ.com, are on a mission to save mankind from extinction by boosting your vitality. Chalk's Male Vitality Stack contains premium and potent herbs clinically studied to naturally boost your testosterone levels, sperm count, and overall vitality. Just one of the many ingredients in the Male Vitality Stack was studied in double-blind human clinical trials to boost total testosterone 20% in 90 days. When you boost your testosterone, you'll have more mental clarity, you're more capable of making decisions and taking risks. Having high testosterone will also affect your pheromones, so women will find you more attractive subconsciously. Get the Chalk Male Vitality Stack right now on Chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. Use my name Pearl as your coupon code and you'll get 25% off site-wide on Chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. My name Pearl is the discount code. So I'm going to start by talking about the definition of gaslighting. The definition of gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone distorts reality to make a person question their own memory, perception, or sanity to gain power and control. The term originates from the 1938 British play and the 1944 film Gaslight, where a husband subtly manipulates his wife's environment to make her doubt her sanity. Examples include denying events. So like, you were flirting with the guy at the bar. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. You're just seeing things. You're dressing like a whore. No, that's not real. The accusing others of being overly emotional and making the victim believe that their memory is flawed. That's, if anyone's dealt with a gaslighter, that's their number one tool. So what it is, it's psychological manipulation. The core of gaslighting is a deliberate attempt to erode a person's sense of reality, control and power. The abuser's goal is to gain or maintain control over the victim in a distortion of truth. The manipulator creates a false narrative, denies events, and makes the victim doubt their own experience and sanity. The origin of the term comes from the play and the film Gaslight. In the story, the husband dims the lamps in the home but denies changing it. When the wife points it out, he makes her think she is hallucinating. So the common tactics, and it's interesting because I was looking at this and it really just reminded me of women. It really just reminded me of the things that women do. Denial. The abuser outright denies something the victim knows to be true. Um, I mean, who hasn't dealt with this in their life? Who hasn't, right? Countering, the abuser questions their victim's memory of events. Trivializing, the abuser dismisses the victim's feelings or concerns. Withholding, the abuser pretends not to understand or listen. Discrediting, the abuser convinces others that the victim is unstable or crazy. So let's look at ideally men describing what gaslighting is because they'll give us a more honest definition. Um,
Gaslighting is a term you might hear a lot, but oftentimes people use it incorrectly or don't know what it actually means. In this video, I'll tell you what gaslighting is, how you can spot it, and what you can do if you're a victim of it. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation where, over a long period of time, often months or years, a gaslighter slowly leads their victim to believe that they can't trust themselves, incapable, or crazy. With enough repetition, these messages actually start to stick. The victim begins to doubt themselves. They feel reliant on the gaslighter, who has painted themselves as the victim's savior, the smart, capable, and sane one. For a victim, this experience is disorienting. They're filled with self doubt, and they often feel anxious, depressed, numb, or confused. They don't know what to believe. Sometimes they start to doubt their own senses and their own memories of experiences. For a gaslighter, it's about controlling the situation. Gaslighters are often normal people with poor self esteem, not some sort of evil mastermind. So, what does gaslighting actually look like in practice? Let me start by describing a scenario and then sharing. A couple has a disagreement about who should clean the kitchen after a meal. Shouting, hurling insults, and everything just grows out of control. A few days later, they have cooled down. They decide to talk about what happened. Here are the tactics the gaslighter might use. Denial. The gaslighter straight up denies the argument ever happened. Or they take a lighter approach and they say it didn't happen how the victim remembers it. They'd say, "What argument? That was a normal conversation." Minimization. The gaslighter might claim shouting and insults are normal in relationships, and it's the victim's fault for being so upset. They'd say, "Yeah, we argued, but it wasn't a big deal. You shouldn't be so upset." Projection. The gaslighter turns accusations back around against the victim. They'd say, "You might have been upset and arguing, but I was perfectly calm. You need to learn to control your anger." Put downs. The gaslighter insults the victim to flip blame back around. They might say, "Wow, you really are bent out of shape about that little argument. You're way too dramatic." Threatening. The gaslighter threatens something bad happening if the victim doesn't go along with their way of thinking. They'd say, "If you keep being so dramatic, I'm going to leave. Then you can always clean the kitchen." Remember, gaslighting is not a one time thing. These tactics are used day after day over the course of months or years. After being told hundreds of times that they're too dramatic, victims might slowly start to believe it. One quick note: so far, I've been talking about romantic relationships, but gaslighting can happen in any type.
okay, so you guys are starting to get the idea. Now, what I want to do is showing how the e-girls are gaslighting us to pretend that they don't want to be naked.